Hey, you probably could guess that the number one reason most golfers never improve or don't improve very much is lack of practice time. Of course, we have real schedules, real lives. Golf is just a hobby for most of us. Can't spend 8 hours a day like the guys on TV. So therefore, I would say probably the number one reason really is the lack of quality in your practice time. So if you're looking to drop a few strokes, probably going to need to improve your practice habits. So this is going to be my ultimate guide to practicing this. You can get better with even a small amount of time per week to practice. We're going to get into a lot of stuff. It's going to be really packed with information. Get ready and stay tuned. Hey, this is Steve with HitItLonger.com. I hope you get enough value out of this video to hit like and subscribe. So I'm here at the end of a very, very large range, maybe the largest range you're ever likely to step foot on. There's something like 80 stalls here. It runs, I don't even think most people could hit their driver all the way across from one end to another. So right now there's got to be 50 something people practicing here. And if I were to walk down the line and watch how everybody's practicing, there'd probably be maybe only, 10 people out of the 50 that are practicing with any kind of purpose. So the first step in practicing better, practicing with a purpose, you're going to have to identify something that you're weak at, or the flaw in your swing, or the ball flight that you don't like, so that you even know where to begin. So I want you to leave this down in the comments. You hit some golf balls, and maybe you'll reflect on your last couple rounds of golf, and you're going to ask yourself, what is my number one and maybe my number two issue why I shot the score that I shot? Maybe it's full swing, maybe it's driver. Do I slice? Do I hook? Do I top my fairway woods? Can I not get out of the bunker very well? So identify first a primary one, and then a little bit later you can identify a second one. Now sometimes it's difficult to tell whether a certain area of your game is weak, but I can tell you there's a lot of resources online. I know Arccos publishes a lot of their data. So if you could just Google like Arccos data, you can find the driving distance that the typical golfer of your handicap hits the ball, and how many fairways they might hit, how many putts they might take per round. So if you're having a hard time identifying what your weak spot is, you can always look at the available data for your golf level. And once you've done that, we can move on and we can start getting the process of practicing smart and improving those weak areas. Now, there's a lot of videos and info out there on how to either stretch or warm up for golf, but just let me hit you with this one fact. It's probably better to maybe pitch a few balls and loosen up. Get your body warmer, get your blood flowing before you do any stretches. Just don't stretch cold is my one big tip. Now, one of the major things I do with students is help them develop what I call a home drill. You've got to be able to practice a little bit every day rather than just relying on that, maybe that once a week that you might visit the driving range. But if you can just give yourself 3 to 5 or 5 to 10 minutes every day, it's going to go a long way towards you improving and dropping your scores. So I always like to help them develop a home drill, something they can just spend a few minutes that will help them. Let's use the example of swinging over the top and outside in and slicing as the issue that we're trying to attack. So there's no golf balls for this because it's at home in your patio, your living room. And I'm laying a stick down here to define an ultra inside to out path. But what you just might do here is just practice making some dry swings that are severely in to out and really feel that. So I'm just swinging along this stick line essentially, very rightwards of my feet. And I might do that for 2 to 3 minutes, especially before I go to the driving range. And that's going to really help me start to build some coordination so that when I put a golf ball in the way, I don't feel completely lost. Now, oftentimes the best home drills don't involve a ball or a club. They just rely on practicing good motion. So let's use the early extension issue that many golfers have for this example. So you could just practice even with a wall behind you or a chair behind you, or you can just do it on your own if you can go slow enough and focus on the motion of keeping this right butt cheek back, even increasing the hip flexion right here, increasing the bow in the transition, and then coming on through maintaining that. So you can see I've done an exercise just to acquaint my brain with the motion I'm going to be trying to make the next time I stick a golf ball in front of it. So it would be maintain the posture going back, increase it on the way down, and then maintain it on the way through. Would be another fantastic home drill that you can do. Now, another very simple thing you can do to increase the quality of your practice is divide your golf balls into different piles. Here I've got 3 piles of 5. You might have piles of 10 or 15 or 20, but definitely divide your time, just as you might do if you were going to the gym, where you would divide your time. You do 3 sets of this one, and you do 3 sets on this machine and 3 sets of the bicep curls. Segment it. You can't just spend your entire time doing the same exercise or trying to fix the same thing, but mix it up a little, come back to it again, or have more than one drill to hit the same issue that you're trying to fix. Separate these golf balls out. You can be much more efficient. You can really focus in on just this one pile of balls at a time. Now, speaking of the golf balls in piles of 5, let me introduce you to a drill I call my 5+5 drill. Now, you can take this and run with it and modify it all you want, but this is just the basic gist. I'm going to work on one idea, think of just one idea. Let's say in this case, I'm going to think about exiting low left. That's what I need to do. I'm going to hit 5 golf balls where all I think about, I'm going to focus 100% of my brain energy right in this area of the swing right here. I'm going to make sure that I keep my club moving around on the proper arc. So I might hit a few shots like this. Not too worried about the contact or the direction. Want to make sure that I focused, my brain is really lighting up this area like it's a spotlight on it. I'm going to hit 5 golf balls with my best attempt to make the correct exit. I might get some feedback on that by using video or TrackMan or another set of eyeballs that are either trained or maybe not so trained. They can help you spot the difference in your swing. Now, when I'm done with the 5 golf balls, what I might do is follow it up with another set of 5 dry swings. So something like this, I might go and 1 and 2 and 3, all the way to 5 like that. So there's your 5+5. Building in or plugging back in the dry swings back in after a set of a few will really reiterate and start to coordinate what you're trying to do during the swing. Now, a corollary to that would be if you absolutely stink on one, and let's say you just completely top it, whiff it, shank it, don't wait for the end of the 5 golf ball set. Just go right back into the correct behavior again. Just like that is what I'm trying to do. Maybe you're trying to swing more inside out and less over the top. You'd go right back into this little motion again like you do at home. And then you go back and proceed with the rest of the set. Something like that. So I successfully swung from the inside Actually, the ball drew quite nicely too. So do the 5+5. Maybe it's a 3+3. Maybe you can modify it any way that you'd like. Now, when you're trying to practice something new, a new idea, a new motion, it's really, really tough for most people to try to make any change. Why is that? Because people try to swing equally as fast trying to make the modification to the swing, which is virtually impossible. You got to remember how your coordination works. Most of your club head speed comes from the swing motion you currently use being highly coordinated. So any new motion, the coordination necessarily drops unless you've been hitting millions of golf balls since you're 4 years old, then it might not be as difficult. But for most people, contact will drop off and you probably won't be able to swing as fast anyway. So the point of this is I want you to slow down when you're working on something new. So let's go back to those two examples that I used in the last segment. What I would do if I were to hit some and either I'm hitting them poorly or my feedback tells me I'm not doing it correctly. Let's say I'm doing something different but not correct different. Or let's say I film myself and my swing looks the same. I swore I was doing something different, but it hardly looks different at all. I'm not getting the change that is necessary. What you're going to do is you're going to slow down. How much do you need to slow down? Well, you might have to slow down all the way to hitting a golf ball 20 or 30 yards with a full swing. You slow down as slow as you need to go in order to perform the motion that you're seeking correctly. You can always speed it up later. So if I'm working on my low left exit and I'm having a hard time performing it, I keep checking it and I'm still out to the right and flipping the toe over. I'm going to go slower and slower and slower until I can either get feedback from someone watching, feedback from the flight of the ball, feedback from the divot, and see that I am now doing it ultra correct. The same thing would go back to that 5 and 5 drill I showed you just a minute ago. And let's go back to our inside out again. Go shorter than full and slower. So here's a very inside out swing. Move up to the ball, quickly pull the trigger, but slowly. There's a super inside out hook shot back to the center again. I only hit that ball about 90 yards though. So I hit the ball almost half of what I would normally hit this club. And you'll need to do the same thing too. And if that's not enough, slow it down again. You can almost get to the point where you can take a full swing. There's a full swing that went 40 yards. As I slowed it down so much through the impact zone that I can now consciously concentrate. I can consciously direct the action, consciously be aware of the motions that my skeletal muscles are making. These are voluntary contractions we're making. But when you start going too fast, number one, you're going to lose your awareness of what's really happening. It's too fast to be completely aware of, but you're also going to lose your ability to direct the action. And so you're just going to spit out the old swing that you've been making all this time. So give yourself a little bit of extra time to plan the new journey down and through the ball, or maybe back if you're working on the backswing. Slow down that segment immensely, and you'll see that you'll have a lot better luck. Now, in the course of practicing with quality so I can lower my handicap, I've developed a home drill. I've identified the motion that I'm trying to improve because I've been honest assessing my golf game and I know what my weaknesses are. And so here I am at the range with my pile of 5 balls, 10 balls, 15 balls that I'm committing to focus on only this one thing. And let's say again, we'll go back to my exit low and left strategy. And let's say that I'm hitting the ball very poorly Oh boy, that went off to the right into the right bunker, so that wasn't that great of a shot. However, if I video this or I get some feedback on this and I know that the motion was correct, I don't care how the contact feels, how quality the contact to the strike is. I don't care if the ball flight is not what I want. I am not trying to hit a playable shot on the golf course. Now, if this happens to spit out in the course of making the correct motion, that's a bonus. But what you're probably going to get is some kind of bell curve on the quality of your shots when you're doing something new that you haven't grooved, you're not highly coordinated at. You're going to get some that are spectacularly good, and you're also going to get some shots anytime you modify your normal swing or style or putting stroke or bunkers, anything you're working on that's new. It's a really good chance you're going to spectacularly fail. Shank it, top it, pop up a driver, whiff it altogether, and that's okay. You're learning something new. You're trying to coordinate a very complex action from a quarter size spot on the club face through a dime size spot on the golf ball. Very specific point in space you're trying to swing through. Give yourself a break. Do the motion. The motion is the most important thing, is concentrating on making the right motion regardless of how the ball is struck or where it goes. So again, here's my dry swing. That's what I'm trying to feel. Maybe slow it down a little bit and give myself a break. And I'm back on the green again with that one, just by slowing it down, making sure I'm making a very correct motion. What I'm trying to work on, maybe I hit it left the heel or the toe, thin, fat. Make sure you're doing the motion right, and the improvement will come in time. Now, in order to have success when you practice, to have a high quality practice that puts you on the way to lowering your handicap and becoming a better golfer permanently, got to get rid of the distractions. Now, what are the biggest distractions you're going to left? The biggest distraction on learning a new motion is the golf ball. That's the biggest distraction. Get rid of it. You can just make many dry swings. I recommend slow and easy, concentrating on impact zone generally, unless you've really got an issue with something at the top or in the follow through. But get rid of the golf ball. It is a gigantic distraction. We spend so much of our time focusing on striking the golf ball centered and square. So many calculations. The percentage of calculations is hogged by the focus on striking the ball and the turf correctly, to where there's almost nothing left. There's no more RAM, you could say. If your brain was a computer, there's no RAM left in order to be aware and control the new motion that you're trying to adjust to. Get rid of the ball. If I'm trying to swing more around and inside to out, I'm just going to practice the motion without a ball. So there's an inside out swing for all you outside in slicers. It's another great example. But in some cases, the club even presents a distraction. Get rid of that. If you're working on something a little bit more intricate, like let's say the early extension, this is a bear for a lot of people. The club becomes a distraction too. You want to instead use no club, no ball, very slow. Very slow. Concentrate on the motion over and over and over again, so that the next time you go to the driving range, it's easier to then put a club in your hand and then finally a ball in the way and do some slowish swings where you're actually doing the motion correct. You're never going to change your swing until you start to practice change. So get rid of the distractions. Focus on the movements of the body and the results will come. Now, we talked about going slowly when practicing a new skill. It's part of a quality practice session. That would also go with practicing with a club that doesn't have the expectation of distance behind it. If you're practicing with a 4-iron or a hybrid, trying to pull off a new skill, it could maybe be done, but your contact will suffer even more, as we talked about in a previous segment. However, it'll be generally easier if you go to a smaller, shorter club where you don't not trying to ever really get it way out there. So I like anything 8-iron, 9-iron pitching wedge, somewhere in that range. You won't feel like you're forced to swing hard. It's more forgiving. And you might have an easier time hitting sweet spot shots that stay course quality, because for a lot of people who are trying to get better, some better golfers, they are so attached to the shots, even on the range. It's like, well, that shot wouldn't have been any good on hole number 3. That would have been in the water like I always go. You go down this tangent and you lose all the focus on the discipline and the regimentation of this practice session. You start to get very discouraged. You don't end up going to your car, patting yourself on the back, telling yourself you had a not really nice range session, practice session that helped move your golf game forward. But instead, you start to get discouraged. You start to you're basing everything on the quality of the shot. Forget the quality of the shot, use a smaller club, because this won't lead to that kind of distraction. It's a lot easier to hit a 9-iron than it is to really pump a 4-iron as hard as you can. And a 9-iron, a lot of times you back off it anyway. So a 9-iron does not go way out there, nor do you try to make it go way out there. So it's a lot easier to swing softly and slowly, and it's a more forgiving club. They will not get you distracted if you do start to have some wacky contacts or directions. Now, you've probably heard this term before, hopefully, feel versus real. Some of you know what that is already, but maybe a lot of you never heard this term before, feel versus real. What you do with your golf swing feels a lot different to you than what it is actually doing. Otherwise, if this didn't exist, you could simply watch a Tiger Woods video from 2005 or 2000, go to the range and start doing the Tiger Woods swing. Why doesn't it work? Because in a golf swing, we can tend to make massive perceptual errors, thinking that we're swinging like Tiger Woods, but the ball's not coming out like Tiger Woods hits it. So why is that? Because, well, most of the swing happens outside even your peripheral vision. So the club is out of your sight. And the part, when it is in your sight, it's moving too fast to even see it. It's a blur. If you swing fast enough, you don't even see a blur at that point. It's just the ball's gone. It's all feel. And we make such massive perceptual errors in our feel. We've got to kind of square them up with what really is happening. Using, again, expert pair of eyes from your local pro that you trust, or other type of feedback devices, whether you have one of the little gizmos that they're starting to make, the Rapsodos and the ES Sports, things that can help track your club speed and your path and your distance, or maybe you've got a little clamp that you attach your iPhone to your bag and you film yourself regularly. Start to figure out what your swing needs to feel like in order to really make it correct. So let's again go back to the inside out draw swing to help those slicers out there. This is a really good one to go to. So of course, normally you probably got this big Got this big roundhouse over the top, steep move that costs you distance and gives you kind of a slicing tendency. You feel like you're swinging it, you swear that you're swinging it inside to out. But what's really happening is you're just going over the top a little bit less. And it drives people nuts. It drives me nuts when I walk down the range and I see one of my students who, right after I've explained feel versus real, and the next point we're going to get into right after this, I explain feel versus real to him and I show him on video, hey look, you thought you were swinging from the inside, but the TrackMan says you're still 8 degrees outside in, and the video shows your club is approaching the ball from the outside to match the other data that we have. And they'll say, by gosh, I would have bet good money that I did it from the inside that time. And so your feel is going to betray you. However, when you can figure out kind of the golf swing algorithm for what you feel versus what's going to pop out, then you can hack into that. So if it feels like, just to get yourself to be 1 degree into out, that's a good target if you're an outside in swinger. If it feels like you need to swing at the ball on a diagonal, 45 degrees into out, in order to just swing it 2 degrees inside out like I just did, so be it. As soon as you arm yourself with the feel versus real golf swing algorithm, I call it, you're going to be on your way to hacking into your own swing. Everybody has a different kind of overall feel of what their golf swing, how they would describe their golf swing, especially the main points of emphasis. Everybody's different. You could see 2 identical swingers, and the way they describe the feel of their golf swing is going to be massively different from each other. So keep that in mind. Feel sometimes is an enormous gap from real. All right, for the next point in creating a good quality practice session, let's talk about something called exaggeration. This is often what we need in training in order to make a golf swing work once we take it out into the real world, onto the golf course, out of the what we might call the laboratory. So for this example, I'm going to go back to the early extension issue and show you how exaggeration might work in this case. So let's say your instructor or you've gotten the feedback that the worst issue you have identified that's causing the chain reaction of your shots to go crooked is early extension of the hips, which would mean if I start on this chair with my butt, as I go through the ball here, I've got a lot of students that do just like that. I've got a lot of students that do just like that. And boy, I hit it just like they hit it. Right in the hosel, and the telltale step as I go over my toes from the pelvis moving forward, the tail step to regain my balance. So you can see in that slow motion of that slow-mo replay, you can see how far I stood up and my rump left the chair. Now we know that the good players on TV, and most good players, stay more relatively at home to the chair. In fact, our good player, I call it the good player database, which includes hundreds of tour pros now who have all had their swings analyzed segment by segment, the same way that they make those video games with all the different reflectors on the suit. Well, they've done this with so many pros now that we know what the averages for good players are, and the good players will not only stay on the chair, but they'll actually lift it a little bit. So let's say in that first demonstration, or let's make it a demonstration that's a little less severe, but I do have several students right now that are that severe, and that is absolutely their miss. They shank it, they've got poor power, poor balance, don't know where it's going, double bogey average if they're lucky. Now, let's make more of a high single digit version of this. where you've been stuck on an 8 handicap for the last 10 years and you've never been able to fix your stand-up. You just keep seeing it over and over. Every lesson you go to, the new teacher will say, boy, you sure stand up. And you'll say, boy, I've been working on that for a long time. I can't seem to get it. I've ditched a bunch of teachers that just keep telling me every lesson, you got to do it, got to do it. You may not be using the exaggeration principle. So we know that as soon as we get off the range where we can just pull back another ball if things go wrong, that's no pressure at all. There's no pressure to get it right on the first try. You just rake back another ball and do it again until you do it right. That's why everybody's so good on their second ball when they drop another ball on the course, because you got to get it right on the first try on the course. Doesn't always work very well, and that's why we tend to lose 80 or 90% often of whatever it is we were practicing. So let's say we're doing, I promised you like an 8 handicap early extension move, something like this maybe. Okay, so I came off the wall 4 or 5 inches. The ball is overhooking into the left bunker there. We don't have to go, we got lots of other videos on early extension you can check out on the channel if this is your issue, but let's use this for a demonstration of exaggeration. So we talked about, let's call this staying on it, we'll call that 0 inches. So the average guy on TV is going to go back, lift the chair about 1 inch as they move along the chair about 6 inches. So an excellent pivot would look more like this. However, if you were just to practice even 1,000 times, you'll improve. Let's say your normal MO is to come off in this direction on this vector, and so through the impact zone your hips are forward about 4 inches. That's very common for a lot of single-digit players who are stuck there. If you just practiced at 0 inches, you're probably going to end up improving a little bit, maybe to 3 inches. But you're going to lose 75% of that. As soon as you go out to the course, you're playing for a little bit of money. Maybe you've got to play from the back tees. You really got to swing hard now. Somebody's invited you to play the blue tees instead of the whites. You got to up your speed. You get 1 golf ball. You got all the elements like the wind and the water to worry about, different yardages. You're not going to spit out that 0 inch swing just because you've practiced it. In fact, even if you practiced at 0 inches for a year, might cut it in half, might get to 4 inches to 2 inches, but you've got to practice with exaggeration. So I'm using a couple other principles here that we talked about in previous segments. I've got a short club. I'm going to use a short, easy swing. I'm not going to be concerned about contact or direction. All I'm going to care about is, can I lift this chair more than 1 inch? Here we go. Okay, and I'm going to hold that position until the ball lands. I've lifted that thing, I don't know, maybe 3 inches off the ground. Now, this kind of practice with the exaggeration principle, this will get you improving fast. You might be to 0 inches in a month or so and solve the problem, be able to identify and move on to the next problem. Why on earth would you want to be stuck with the same primary issue for year after year after year? That's simply because you're not practicing well. So let's practice with more quality starting right now. Now, how the brain and the body works in order to get you more used to these new motions that you've identified you need to make in order to fix the shot pattern that is your biggest enemy and the biggest cause of your scores being higher than you want. The brain and the body actually need time. It's not just repetitions that fixes an issue, because the brain actually has to make physical changes to reorganize itself and detach and retach neurons, and something you would do something called myelinization. And that's myelinization of a pathway enables you to swing faster and faster and yet still use that same pathway. So it is how kind of the physiological way you would describe building coordination. The more repetitions you do correctly, hyper correctly, even better, the faster you're going to be able to go and still maintain the same behavior. So here, let's say I am 10 buckets in. I've been lifting the chair on an exaggerated fashion for a couple of weeks now, and now I'm going to try for a little bit more speed, and hopefully it stays together. All right, let's go back to our outside in, over the top, steep slicers. I know some of you are watching this, trying to figure out how you're gonna get rid of that slice, and it's probably not gonna be practicing more. You're just gonna get even better at the slice and make it more permanent. So let's change our practice habits. Here's just a handy drill, the bucket and stick drill you can do. I've got the bucket on the line and the stick is about the same angle as the shaft is at address. But we're going to do what I call stepping it up. So far you've had high success in missing the stick in the bucket like this. There we go. And boy, you get that club coming under the stick and inside the bucket into the ball, and it almost wants to turn itself over. That ball almost wants to draw from the first ball. However, I only hit that about 100 yards. Soft swing, which is what I was supposed to be doing. My enemy was whacking the stick with my club or whacking the bucket with the head of the club. Those are the enemies, so I won that round. Again, let's go back to near the beginning when we were talking about piles of balls. This is where you might have a pile of 10. Separate a pile of 10 golf balls for the step it up drill, or sometimes I call it the leapfrog drill. So if I hit that last one 100 yards and I was successful at coming from the inside, let's go 115 now. Okay, again, I won the game. The ball went a little bit left on me. It's okay though. If you're a slicer, I bet overhooking one into the left edge of the left rough is going to be like, oh, thank you, finally, I've visited the other side of the fairway for once. So there we go. I'm successful now, a little faster. What I'm going to try to do, as long as I'm successful, is I'm going to keep stepping up the speed and power until, let's say I get to 10 balls and I'm hitting more full out and I'm not failing. I'm continuing to make the right motion, whether it's this drill or early extension or exiting low left, or maybe it's just your grip. Maybe you're just making a simple grip change and someone, or you've identified this as the biggest source of your problems, and maybe your left-hand grip has been very poor and you're fixing that and it feels terrible. Again, what you might do is step it up, separate out 10 golf balls, and play a little game of leapfrog with yourself. Test yourself. Push your brain to adapt. Challenge. Hardship, challenge. They help stimulate our brain to physically change faster. So, give yourself a little bit more stress. Here's that good left-hand grip. It feels awful. I just know I'm going to hit it bad with this new grip that the instructor gave me. I started to get the gist of it at low speeds, but now let's try stepping it up. We're going to go a little bit faster. Boy, it just feels so awkward. Maybe the ball sliced way off to the right or something like that, but you're going to ignore it because all you got to do, you got to make sure that that hand gets on there correctly Or even, as we discussed in a previous segment, maybe hyper correctly for a little while. Maybe you'll need to hit a few buckets of balls if you're trying to get your grip stronger in the left hand. Maybe you got to turn it all the way to 3 o'clock and hit some balls that way. That's the exaggeration principle we talked about earlier. Let's try one like that. So here is the crazy, ultra strong grip. And of course I'll slow it down at first because it's just so awkward. I feel like I'm going to whiff. But then separate out 10 golf balls, try my leapfrog, step it up, put more stress on the system to adapt, but do it for a finite period. Don't chase it like chasing your losses in Vegas. Just define the starting and end period and then move on to a different drill or a different issue. Now, another way that you can, quote, step it up or put some more stress, going for more quick adaptation, it can be ugly. It can be difficult. It can take a lot of patience. This is why you're separating out. You only got to suck. Embrace the suck for 5 to 10 golf balls. But here, I'm going to try to do my same move with a hybrid. This is now a longer club that we expect to go out there. So if you're trying to chase that, swing really fast, you may really fall apart. But I'm going to try to do my exit low left. Again, I'm going to do maybe some dry swings. Here we go. Just like that, just to refresh it in my mind, and then play a little leapfrog. So at first I'm just going to kind of take it easy and go a little bit slow. And what I might do is hit several. Then I might go turn the camera on and film one of them, or get someone whose eyes you trust to watch you hit a few and see if you're actually doing what you think you're doing. Go back to that feel and real concept we talked about a few segments ago. Here we go. Exit low left for me. Whew, that ball was hammered down the left center. That is, how far? 263 yards total with a smooth hybrid. Can I step it up now? That was 94 miles an hour. Now I would try to step it up, maybe film it again and see what happens as I increase the speed. Am I losing too much? Am I reverting, in other words? So here we're going to go for a little bit faster swing. And let's see how we did there. That's 98 miles an hour. I stepped it up a little faster. And we got a ball that's going 271 with a rollout. That is 250 in the air. So pretty good distance with the hybrid. And what I would do is I would use that swing that I had filmed and I would play it back and forth over and over in slow motion. And I would use that to help guide me as I go back to previous principles. So if I look at that and I say, hey, okay, cool. You know, that swing looks better than last month. It's definitely coming along. I could not hit the ball this well at this speed, and it looks, a little bit different. It guides me. I'm going to let that video, I'm going to let it guide me into how I'm going to practice after this. Even better if you can get a full swing out on the course, especially a hole that's like your nemesis or a very tight hole. A hole that's got a little bit more stress off the tee or into a green. You want to get that on video and you want to see, well, how's my improvement coming along? Have I been practicing with quality and with a purpose? I will start to see a permanent change after a few weeks. Very small at first, but I'm going to let that swing. Let's say I just film that last one, I go back and I review it. I say, feel is not real. The ball flight was good. I certainly felt like I swung around the way I wanted to, but the video is telling me that that wasn't real. I need to practice either with more exaggeration or maybe slower so I can get the exaggeration easier, maybe just longer because my brain has not yet myelinated this new motion. Maybe it's just not coordinated, and at high speed my brain simply sends the signal down a different set of pathways to my muscles to do something different. In other words, revert to the way that is the most comfortable or the only way that I can recruit this kind of speed. High speed can only be done one way, at least high speed through the center of the ball, and that is the way that you've hit the most golf balls in your life. You've got the most myelinization that way, your old reliable way. It takes a while, both with repetition and with physical changes in the brain, changing the pathways, getting you addicted to a new pathway that causes a better swing. So time and repetitions, but use these step it up exercises. Harder swing, longer club, to identify where you're at and to challenge yourself into adapting faster. So whenever you're going to make a change in your swing for the better, you've identified your number one issue. Let's say it's slicing, you leave the face open and maybe swing out to in too much, and you're going to go on a mission to fix that. And I'm like, by gosh, I'm going to become a drawer of the golf ball. Even if it takes me till my deathbed to do, I'm going to stop this slice. Give yourself, be nice to yourself. Understand that in this process, it's the same type of process as when you were a baby and you learned how to walk for the first time. Nearly all of us, we were not successful on the first try, and we had spectacular face plants into tables and onto the floor and into windows. We fell down, we skinned knees, we got bruises, and this is the same thing. It's not as painful, at least physically. Emotionally, mentally, it can be like torture if you don't be nice to yourself. So have patience. Use the principles in this video to make the sting a little bit easier. But the goal of a good practice session is being able to put your clubs in the trunk of your car, being able to pat yourself on the back, knowing that you had a quality practice session where, yeah, maybe you didn't hit a single ball good, but through the feedback or the practices you're doing, you know that you're making progress in the motion itself. The contact and the quality of shot will come, but you've got to ignore the lousy shots. Sometimes this can take a while. If you put 10 exercise physiologists, motor learning PhDs in a room, none of them will be able to define how many repetitions it's going to take for you to fix your issue. You just got to keep trudging up that mountain, pushing that rock up the mountain like Sisyphus. Look him up if you don't know the story of Sisyphus. It's a perfect analogy for trying to modify or fix your golf swing. So when you've done well, pat yourself on the back often. Don't have super high expectations. Embrace the suck. As one of my favorite students would say, you've got to just embrace the suck, because there's going to be a lot of sucking. A lot of really crappy shots will be in your future, especially if you're trying to change a long-standing habit, or if you're trying to change a habit that is large. If it's something small, it might not take that long. It might be a week, but if it's something large, you're humping it by 12 inches, you're over the top 15 degrees, something like that. Give yourself a time span that more is months. Use all these principles. Chip away the stone, one little chip at a time, and you'll be moving that boulder from here over to there. Be nice to yourself in the meantime. All right, hey, thanks for watching my ultimate practice guide on how to drop your handicap. Even if you don't have a ton of time to practice, I'm going to go back and work on my quality session. I've got my next set of 5 here all lined up to do one specific task. If you want more, head over to my website, hititlonger.com. I've got some really great videos and articles that will hopefully help you get better with your golf game. Also, check out the products in the Pro Shop. Everything that I have in there, I use myself with students or myself practicing on an everyday basis. Nothing in there is what I would consider something that you would have collecting dust in your garage. After a few weeks, like there's a lot of products out there, they're all writing to me saying, Steve, we want you to represent our product, pitch our product, sell our product for us. They look like things that are gonna end up in the garage after a few weeks because they just don't do much. So check out the products page. There's probably something on there. And if you're not sure which of those products can help, just email me, steve@hititlonger.com. One more plug, don't forget, right down here in the description of this video, don't forget to sign up for my free distance master class. These are videos, 5 videos that are gonna be sent every so often to your email. Straight to your email will be a link to the new video. They're really simple to follow. Don't cover that much meat in each one. It's really one pretty simple tip in each one. And I believe if you follow this distance master class, especially with all the principles that I've thrown at you in this video, I think you're gonna pick up 30 to 50 yards off the tee with that master class. So sign up for that today. Just follow the link down below. Hey, I'm gonna head back to it again. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Steve, and if I don't see you in the next video, I'll see you longer and straighter down the fairway. Everybody take good care.
Oh.